This is your neighborhood friendly ranter speaking, bringing you another viewer request episode. Now, me and the horror genre have a particular love-hate relationship. That's because I believe that a great horror film has not been made within the last probably 20 or 30 years. And I believe a big part of that is because a lot of directors now seem to focus either on a gory camp fest or there's a lot of potential over actual product. And I believe today's viewer request is a good example of a great concept that's just poorly executed. And that movie is Ghost Ship. Now, the basic plot line here is that a salvage crew who just got off of a big, huge salvage is sitting in a bar and they are approached by a mysterious stranger. And the mysterious stranger offers them a job to salvage a ghost ship. And so, like any reasonable people, they realize that this ghost ship is pretty large and could bring them a lot of revenue. So they decide to go and check it out, in which all of these crazy things ensue as they try to actually save this boat. Now, I think the biggest problem for this movie is that it starts off really, really well. And I know you're probably thinking, how does a movie starting off really well cause a problem? Well, I think the movie starts off so well with so much potential that in the end it really can't deliver what it set the expectations for. And the movie really starts out on probably one of the best notes I've ever seen for any horror movie. And I think it sort of, in a way, maybe blows its load a little early, because it starts out with this scene in which they're all at this really lavish dinner party, and they're all having a great time, and they're all laughing and, dancing, and that's cut very short by a good majority of the crew and the members of the party being slaughtered. And it's a very jarring scene, and I'll admit, I was very shocked and appalled by this scene because it just comes out of nowhere, really, and for me, that's really hard to do. So I've got to give this movie kudos on some level, because it did shock and appall me, at least in the beginning, and that's something that a horror movie has not done in a long time. However, as the movie progresses, and you get a little bit past the halfway point, the movie starts to really lose credibility. And I think that's the problem, is that this movie starts out with so much credibility and so much great potential in the beginning and builds this world of believability that it almost forgets that it is a supernatural horror film. And all of that credibility they work to create is essentially destroyed in the end. Now, this particular scene really bothered me. The death of the token black guy. Because, really, he's one of the few compelling characters, not to mention the fact that he is the most reasonable character. Yet, he gets killed by trying to have sex with a ghost that he knows is not real? It makes absolutely no sense to me. I mean, he even establishes that he knows that the ghost is not real.
Jessica, I know all of this isn't real. So, I'm just gonna go with it, okay?
Seriously? Seriously. I kid you not, I almost stopped watching this movie because of this particular scene. Why? Because why does Mr. Let's get the hell off this boat decide that it's a good idea to get drunk and try to have sex with a ghost? And while I understand gratuitous nudity is really nice, and I appreciate the female anatomy as much as any guy, if it's on a ghost, I'm not going to follow it. Sorry, it just doesn't work for me.
There's something weird
Now, I'm not going to go into the rest of the scenes that are unbelievable because I believe that would be a little too nitpicky, and that's not really what I want to do. I want to give this movie at least some air of suspension of disbelief, like I do every other movie. So those other scenes are sort of Hollywood logic that could possibly work theoretically, but don't really work in real life. So, in short, I would have to say that this movie is not terrible. It's a really great concept for a movie, and if you've ever read any kind of true story of a ghost ship, it's actually very, very frightening and very, very psychological. And I think if they would have played more to the psychological aspect and sort of tried to blend that in with the supernatural and sort of blur that line in between the two, I think it would have been a far more effective film. And another problem is that none of the characters are really all that compelling. None of them really seem developed enough for me to really care about what happens to them. For the most part, you just don't really care. Someone dies off, So my recommendation is to definitely check this out if you're really bored, because it's not a terrible movie. It's decent and it's watchable, but that doesn't necessarily make it good. There's a lot of potential here, but it just falls so short. So that is my review of Ghost Ship.